Today we're going over what I learned shooting my very first precision rifle match. Precision rifle shooting is a sport that is no doubt growing very fast in the shooting community. And I think it's kind of natural. I mean, we've seen a lot of things kind of come up in the last decade. Pistol shooting has really increased, 3-gun, 2-gun, and I think people were kind of looking for the next natural challenge, and for a lot of people that was distance, and therefore precision rifle shooting kind of came up. I mean, it's an opportunity for you to test how good of a marksman you are out to some pretty decent ranges. I mean, some matches can shoot out to 1,000 yards. My name is Dave Tim. Thank you very much for spending a few minutes checking out this video, talking about the lessons that I've learned shooting my very first precision rifle match. And I gotta say, it was an absolute blast. It was definitely what I expected in some ways, more of a challenge in other ways, and then there were some frustrations too, which we'll talk about here in a second. But kind of like what I explained, I got into various shooting sports. I was, a pretty decent 3-gun shooter for a while. I haven't had much time to shoot as much 3-gun, but I always did like the challenge, and shooting the rifle out to the extended distances was always a really fun part. So when I started to see some of the guys that I shot with a lot transitioning over to precision rifle, I started to ask why. And I had the opportunity finally this year to have everything in line with a rifle, a match opportunity, have my optic, everything else. And finally I was able to make my first match, which was a local match for me, and it was a great time. And we're going to talk about some of the gear that I used. We're not going to talk about the rifle as much because I actually had to send the rifle back to the manufacturer. I had a little bit of an issue with feeding, which I will talk about when I get the rifle back for the full review video on the Sequence Havoc. I don't know exactly if it was an issue that I caused with trying to fit the bottom metal or if it's the action issue, but I'm not going to keep anything from you, so once it's time to review the rifle, you'll hear all about it. But the rifle shoots really good. It's just this one little minor issue. So hopefully we'll get through that. But that's the only thing that's kind of missing, which is the big obvious piece. But you'll see tons of footage of the rifle in use, and we'll talk about some of the lessons learned. So first things first, if you have a rifle, just go shoot a match. If you're interested at all in it, just go shoot. We had one guy who had a relatively out-of-the-box Savage with a kind of mid-level Vortex scope, and he actually ended up shooting really, really well. He got, I want to say, a top 10 finish. He beat me, and he just, shot with a relatively inexpensive gear. Didn't have a ton of money into it. But some of the things to kind of definitely do before is make sure you have a good solid 0 at 100 yards or 200, whatever you prefer. But I made sure I had a really good dependable 0 at 100 yards, and then I also chronographed the load that I would be shooting for the match, and then I added that into my ballistics software on my phone. Now I use iStralock Pro. I just really like that. It works out, or it's just called, Stralock Pro. I just really like that app. It works out really slick. It has all my different rifles saved. I use that when I teach, rifle marksman for patrol rifle marksman type courses. It just works really well. It has the reticles, it has the weather input. I really like it, and I'll probably do another video on that app in the future, but I just really enjoy it. I can switch between suppressed, not suppressed, have different profiles, all sorts of stuff. It's a really cool app. That leads me to my first issue, though. One of the very first stages I was missing, and these were relatively close targets, like 350 yards. And then I had to adjust my hold because I could see where I was hitting, and I started making hits. Well, I looked at the data, and when I went to 0 and do my chronograph, I left the profile on my suppressed setting. So that 1 mil adjustment or whatever it was for my suppressor was actually what I was basing my adjustments off of versus I was shooting unsuppressed in the match. So just make sure you keep that in mind when you're going into it. But have a good 0, have good chronograph so you can go into your ballistics data and know actually what the gun should be shooting. And then obviously if you have the range and the time, you'll actually confirm that. So if the app says at 300 yards you should be this, if you can shoot at 300 and confirm that, then you can make adjustments and go from there. But going into it, I obviously had my rifle, which you'll be seeing in the video, and to support that, I had a bipod. Now this particular bipod is the Bobro bipod. It just attaches to a Picatinny rail with their lever here, and then it has basically an opened and closed position, and then you can adjust the height with these little, knobs here or whatever. So it's a good bipod. It's a great tactical bipod. I like this bipod a lot. However, if I was buying truly for precision rifle, I'd probably look at an Atlas, something that had a 45-degree position, because there was a few stages where I was using support or something like that, where I saw a few of the guys using that at 45 degrees, so they didn't, using it completely high or low. And I thought that was really cool. The other thing, if I was starting from scratch and I was really getting into this, is the ARCA rails on the bottom, so you can slide the bipod on different positions of the rifle. That was really cool. I've seen a few different videos of people using that, particularly if they want to use the bipod closer to the mag well, like on a barrel or something like that. So I think that's a really cool piece of equipment, and I saw some of the shooters there with the full-length ARCA rail, and they could move the bipod. And then I talked to other shooters who are really, really good shooters, and they're like, nah, I just leave the bipod out front, and then I just use a bag whenever I want support. But definitely recommend having a bipod. And then the best advice that I got going into it was don't spend a ton of money on stuff, because people will let you use stuff. But if you're gonna buy a couple of things that you wanna have so you can practice on your own or whatever that might be, is bags. So if you already have a bipod, you already have a rifle, bags. To start with, I got this guy, which is the pint-sized sticky game changer by Armageddon Gear. And it's filled, it's pretty heavy, and it has this kind of sticky material on most sides. And this thing is awesome. It has a rest here for a forend. You could use it as a rear bag if you wanted to. The sticky material, it's not sticky like stuff will attach to it, but it has some friction material to it, so it kind of stays in place. But great advice. I'm new to this, so take that for what it's worth, but I really, really liked this sticky pint-sized game changer. Very, very happy with that purchase. I already had a rear bag that I brought with, but I don't think I used it at all during the match. But in my kind of tactical style precision rifle training and experience, you'd use the bipod up front and then a rear bag to kind of level it out, and you could kind of squeeze it. But I had it. I don't know if I really ever ended up using it. I like that pint-sized game changer. And then as far as the front, a lot of people refer to these as like a pump pillow. This particular one is made by ESC Dynamic Gear. It has kind of a friction spot here so it doesn't slip. It's filled with basically almost like a pillow type material. I don't even know, I haven't taken it apart. I think it's sewn shut. But then it has some shock cord or paracord here so you can loop it. It has these straps here so you can cinch it down, or you could put it around an arm. You can use it, to support here. You could use it as a rest. You could rest the rifle here and then have this as a rear bag. You can use it, if you were putting it on a knee, if you were having a reverse kneeling position, you could put that in between your knee and your elbow. And then it does have a carabiner here so you could clip it to like your pocket or something. I asked a few people about like the carabiners that I've seen, or like the leads, I should say, where they kind of have the bag hanging down and then they pull it up. And a lot of people said it just gets in the way. So just clip this to your pocket if you're not going to use it right away, and then it's right there, and it's one less thing to kind of snag on. But having, just these two bags and a bipod, I went into it not feeling like, oh, I wish I had this or I wish I had that. So that was cool. So what did I learn? Number one, just go shoot the match. Number two, know your data, trust your data, and verify that you're shooting the profile. So if you have a suppressed and unsuppressed, make sure you're doing that. And then another thing is that Strelok Pro has this tilting category that I was playing with. So like if the target were, let's just say 40 degrees at a cant below you, it can calculate for that. Well, of course, on one of the stages, I accidentally had the tilt set, so I was shooting low. When I just would have had straight out, I probably would have made my hits, because I had a couple of people call and basically say, hey, you were low, and sure enough, I looked, and if I would have adjusted. But the other tip that I did is I just took some masking tape on my forearm, and I wrote down my different holds, because you are going to have to dial, you are going to have to make changes, whether it's in the reticle or the dial, for different stages, because there'll be different targets at different stages. And a lot of people had like these little holders with cards and fancy things like that. And again, ahead of time, I had a guy just basically say, hey, just bring a roll of masking tape and a Sharpie, put that on your arm, write out your holds, and you'll be good to go. And sure enough, that's what I did, and it worked just fine. But those are, kind of some of the lessons that I learned real quick. Also, like any shooting match, make sure you bring some water, Gatorade, snacks, whatever. Depending on the match, there may or may not be food. This particular one there was, but it was nice to have kind of some snacks and some refreshments. Comfortable shoes, of course. And then going from stage to stage, a lot of people had backpacks, so I'm glad I brought a backpack so I could put my bags in there, kind of put a bottle of water, put my extra ammo, put some mags in, and then I could carry that and my rifle from stage to stage. It's not like 3-gun where you have these carts and everything like that, or where the stages are all near each other. I mean, you're shooting considerable distance, so a lot of times that means that the geography has the stages in different spots in order to get the distance. So it's not like 3-gun where it's a sprint. You have 90 seconds or whatever the par time is, and it doesn't matter if you use half of it or all of it. It just matters if you get your hits. And a lot of the stages are limited to 10 rounds and 10 targets. And ideally you go 1 for 1, or maybe it's a 12-round stage. So having 1 mag in the gun is generally all you'll need, but everybody told me, hey, have a mag in your pocket just in case you have a stoppage or a mag issue. So that's what I did. So I had a couple of mags with me, and I was just, kind of prepared. Now luckily the gun ran fine and I was able to shoot, but it was definitely a challenge, getting in and out of a car, because you had to shoot from, outside of the car, inside of the car, on top of the car. Definitely made for some challenges, and you had to kind of bring your bag with, and you could, just kind of be creative. As long as you were shooting in this position, it didn't matter how you had your bag set up, it didn't matter how you had your rest, but you could definitely see watching the video where I wasted time getting in and out of a position versus just, once you got settled in to shoot. But watching the video, it's kind of like, man, just get in there and shoot. So taking advantage of your time, being efficient, getting in and out of positions, kind of knowing, okay, that's how I'm going to rest the gun, get in there quick, could save you a lot of time so you have more time to shoot your targets, is kind of some of the things I've learned. But I hope to do more of this. I hope I have more time to make some more matches and learn more, because it definitely is a challenge. And seeing some of these guys shoot, they just get into position quick and they execute these shots and their follow through is flawless, and they're just like impact, impact, impact. It's definitely a respectable skill, and to see a good marksman shoot was definitely inspiring and something I really enjoyed. So I hope to be getting into more of that. I also hope to be picking up a 22 trainer here pretty soon to be able to practice a little bit more inexpensive and at some closer ranges, and then do a 22 precision rifle match as well. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to do this summer. It's kind of a new for me, and we'll be doing some handgun stuff as well. So before we wrap up this video, number 1, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe. Number 2, if you have an interest in something or a question about something firearms related, at the end of the month we do have a QA series, and in order for your question to appear at the show, we need you to send it to the email address shown on the screen, which is theqa@gunsandtactics.com. You send in a question, I answer those questions on the show. If we don't know, we'll learn together, and then of course we give away a prize to one lucky winner at the end of the episode. So please check that out. We do have a playlist on our channel. Thank you guys very much for watching again, and have a great day. We work really hard to make content that we hope you as a shooter would enjoy. Subscribe to our channel, check out our featured videos and playlists, and if you have a question firearms related, go ahead and send an email to the address shown on the screen to be entered into our monthly QA series.